Hello, and welcome to part 11 of our drive to the Lake District. Okay, so we're just at junction 40 now, Penrith, just about to join the M6 motorway south. And yeah, we've had a really good day out. I did think of going down the A6. You can pick up the A6 there at Ament Bridge, just a little bit further along the A66 there, but we needed to get home at this point, so this is the whole journey from junction 40 to 31, which is Preston. Right, so where were we regarding the bikes? So 2012, interesting year, because we'd had the Pan 4 years nearly. It would have been sort of late 2012. I think probably the longest that we had a bike, really. And looking back with hindsight, I mean, I say this every time, especially to fellow Pan-European owners, especially in the Northern Pan riders, who thought I made a mistake. I got it all. It's too small, the pillion's no room, blah blah blah. You can't put a top box and panniers on. All these scare stories. None of them proved to be true, I'm pleased to say. If you test ride an FJR and compare it directly to a Pan-European, then you're not being fair on either machine, really. But I know I enjoyed, and so did Lynn, the FJR, the both of them. But I must admit, I do miss the Pan-European, because that was a bike that was particularly close to my heart. Gorgeous machine, absolutely stunningly beautiful. The FJR was a lovely bike to ride, great handling, especially Phoenix. Definitely improvements on the 2013 FJR Sylvia, but as a looker, it didn't have the looks that Gloria had, the Pan-European. There's no doubt about it. It was a bonny bike. And the 1100 Pan, well, in Winebury, I know someone who's got one. It's 20 years old now. He's had it from new, and it's stunning. It just still looks the business. It's 20 years. Sorry, 1990. So 29 years old. That model, and it still looks the business. It really does. Honda got it right. We definitely with that machine, with the Pan-European. Both models, in my opinion, but the 1100, yeah, very heavy. Some of the exhaust, mild steel collector box. Really, obviously designed to make money. So you have to replace the bloody thing, within a few years of use, especially in winter time. But that's how they make the money on the spares, so you can't really blame Honda for that, because the bikes themselves go forever. Mechanically, you just keep going. Very, very strong engine. Right, so 2012, we at some point, I can't remember when it was, sort of probably springtime, late spring. It wasn't a particularly nice day. We were over at Southport Superbikes, and we decided to have a try on the huge, impressive BMW K1600. Now, the one that they had as a demo bike was the GT model, and we took it for a test ride, and as I said, it was wet. It was like fine rain. It wasn't brilliant, but we brought it home, and we had it for a few hours, and wow, it was a particularly nice colour. I'll try and find a picture of it, and put it up, and yeah, the gearbox, right away I noticed the gearbox was quite clunky compared with the pan. Very clunky, in fact, really. It was annoyingly so. And to me, it was a deal breaker. That in itself, I thought, well, if this doesn't improve with me getting used to it, then you can forget it. But as a bike, torque and power, as you can imagine, it's an inline six cylinder. Absolute 160 brake horsepower. All that on a bike, it's just so impressive, I think it's about 30 brake horsepower more than the FJR, I think, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So we took it back, and we sort of, having a good think about it, and we sat at the desk of the salesman inside there. His nickname was Mike the Bike. It's now known as Bowker BMW, or Bowker, but I call it Bowker. And I believe last time I heard he's out working there, and he's a salesman, in every sense of the word. And he's sat there and sort of, what do you think? Oh, well, we were both impressed. But I said, tell you what, I said, your lunch is on there. He had his sandwiches on his table. I said, get your lunch. I said, we need to get a bite to eat. We'll take a walk and have a think about it. And what? He says, have a think about it? What do you mean? I said, well, you can't make a decision like this just like that. There's no way. We need to weigh everything up. And whilst I was saying all this, our pan was outside and I could see her through the window. So of course I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, what the hell are we doing, But anyway, we went out and found this, I think probably a Tesco Express or something like that. We got a couple of sandwiches, one each, and a drink. And we had a talk, and we decided between us that yes, we like it, but it's just not worth the money. We just can't justify the expense of changing from one bike to another. We just couldn't do it. So the brain took over this time on this occasion. One of the few times it did, instead of the heart ruling, or should I say the heart ruled the brain, perhaps, because of our love for the pan-European. Don't know, but whatever it was, we decided not to go for it. So we went back to Southport Superbikes, and we walked in, and Mike's there looking all sort of, confident, and and he says, right, he says, what do you think? What's you thinking? And I said, well, I'm sorry, Mike. I said, but we've decided not to go for it. Well, his expression on his face was a picture. I wish I got a picture of it. And he was dumbstruck. He clearly had it in the bag. He thought this couple, they're gonna buy this bike, you know. We were making, I guess, all the right noises as about the performance of the bike, and we were impressed with it. Don't get me wrong, we were impressed, but I'm afraid we couldn't justify it. So he accepted that decision, and we went on our way. There was a guy who worked at the dealership. What's his name? And he was like the preferred salesman, really. I mean, a friend of mine, George, he's bought a couple of bikes or so off Southport, and he always dealt with this guy, and sadly he passed away. I don't know how long after we were there, 2012, but I did hear on the grapevine that he'd actually died. So really sad, very, very sad, because he was a salesman in every sense of the word, but he had he'd probably said to us, you know, if we was dealing with him or he was dealing with us, you know, yeah, I can see a point, you know, Lynn Paul, you know, I can see exactly where you're coming from, but if you change your mind, you know where we are, something to that effect. Whereas we left the shop after seeing Mike with the feeling that he was bitterly disappointed with us, and all he wanted was his sales figures that month, you know. That's the difference between someone who cares, like, you know, Keith Dixon in Accrington, the Yamaha dealer. It's not called, well, it is, he's still got his name on the shop. I went past it the other week, and the sign's completely changed now. It used to say Keith Dixon Yamaha, but Keith's a lovely man, absolutely lovely man. And it was a pleasure doing business with Keith on those two occasions. Hey-ho. So we decided to invest some equipment on the pan, i.e. communication equipment, because we were due to go to, I don't know if we decided or if it had been organised, but we were going to France for a weekend that year. We went with Paul and Chaz and Graham and Sally. And Graham and Sally at that time were on the a Winebury 1100. Paul and Chaz were on a silver SD 1300 pan. And they both had what do you call it, communication, what's it called, the manufacturer, the wired stuff, it'll come to me. So we'd never, Lynn and me never had the ability to talk to each other on the bike, apart from shouting at each other from one helmet to another. So this was a whole new Autocom. That's the name of the product, Autocom. And my God, when it came, you know, you got your radio, you got your headsets, you got all your wires. Oh, it was like, you know, Battersea bloody power station, you know. And Graham was kind enough to come along and fit this system to the pan. And so when we were in France, in Reims, went to Reims, we had communication. It was fantastic. We didn't talk much to each other, each bike I should say, but the fact that Lynn and me could chat to each other, it was a revelation. It was wonderful. It just improved the ride altogether, you know, the fact that you could share stuff that you were seeing, you know, and you didn't feel as alone, You know, I've got Lynn, you know, my soulmate at the back of me. I know she's there, but being able to talk to her, well, it was lovely. So we got that, and that wasn't cheap. I can't remember how much it was, but got it off the internet, off supplier that the Northern Pan Riders used, and that was that. I think the next bike we tried test road was the Triumph 1200 Trophy. It's a triple cylinder, and it's rather like the R1200 RT BMW. A little bit with the fairing, similar style fairing, big. But this is an inline triple, whereas the BMW is the boxer engine. And we test rode it from a dealership in Blackburn called Philip Ewell's, and I've got to say we loved it. It was a lovely ride, full of technology. I mean, bloody hell, the display, and it was like, I think it was electronic suspension. It had all the gizmos, radio, really quite high tech. Compared with the Pan, you know, the Pan really was like, you know, like coming from a, you know, sort of an old British bike, you know, styling wise and you know, technology wise, to the very latest Japanese bike, you know, or in this case, British, you know, British high tech one. So it was quite comfortable. It was a lovely ride, big screen, massive fairing, beautiful protection from the elements. But the price that Ewell's were prepared to give us for our 4-year-old Pan, I think it was probably 2012, back end of 2012, when we test rode this Triumph. It pathetic. It was an insult. I can't remember the price they offered us, but it was an absolute insult, and they weren't prepared to move on it. So again, no deal. But you can see that I was getting what I used to call it, not itchy feet, but itchy wheels, like I wanted to change. And again, looking back, I regret that in some ways, because I should have been happy with what I had, and I was, but I was clearly, you know, wanting to get new all the time, new, something different, and it is a regret. It's that. But you know, life's for living, isn't it? And we certainly did that, Lynn and me. You know, we certainly did what we wanted to do, and lived, you know, and we got the evidence to prove that in all the videos. So the Triumph was a no-no. They've now since ceased production on that model, so again, you know, good reason not to get it. So in 2013 we sort of, you know, thought even more about this and what have you, and we just sort of, I guess, put it. I did anyway, and Lynn definitely did. Put it back of my mind about changing. You know, be happy with what I've got. But one day I set out on the Pan for a ride, just for a local ride, In fact, I'll tell you where I wanted to go. I wanted to go and see. There was a dealership in Accrington called Clark's of Accrington. They were Honda dealers, and they'd long since closed. I think there was a difference between the family or something, and it was sad really when it closed, because it left this area of Lancashire without a Honda dealer. There wasn't one in Preston at the time. I think the nearest was Blackpool Honda and Lancaster Honda, or Hunt's in Manchester, so nothing round here, so pretty poor really. Anyway, look at this bonehead here into Middle Lane. Anyway, it's just, you just see, this is the lane hoggers. These are the lane hoggers that unfortunately have forced the police to bring out a new law, about lane hogging. But unfortunately, it's taken too far, because many a time it's best to stay in that lane if there's a lot of traffic, a lot of trucks ahead. But I need to pull back now and get past him. He's indicating, right? Okay, perhaps he flashed him or I did. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, where were I? 2013. So I've gone for a ride, and a local ride, and I wanted to go and see this new shop in Accrington which had opened on Burnley Road, and it was one at Clark's, who had opened it, and I'd seen him quite a while earlier in my van. I saw him in Oswestwhistle, and he was telling me all about this. So I thought, I'll come up and see. So I said, so I'm going up Burnley Road, and it's on my right, and I thought, right, I'll turn around and I'll go back, but I don't know. I thought, no, I'll go another time. I'll have a brew and a natter with Keith Dixon. So I went in Keith's shop, and outside on the pavement outside, a lovely pavement at Keith Dixon's shop. It's one of the best that I know of for parking your bike and having bikes parked outside of it. And I went in and I saw this, I think it was black FJR, new one, the demo one, outside. So I said to Keith, I see you've got an FJR outside, and I said, you fancy a test ride on it? Yeah, I said, well, I would. I said, but I haven't got my licence with me and anything. Well, he said, your bike's there, pan. So that's collateral, isn't it? So he was a businessman, and he saw an opportunity there, and he as it turned out, it was a good move by Keith there. So I gets on this FJR, and I rides it home, and Lynn is in the back garden, and of course she hears this motorbike, and she comes to the garage, and I'm sat there on this FJR, and she says, where's that from? I've just left the house about half an hour earlier or so, maybe a bit longer, with on the pan, and I've come home on an FJR, a brand new one. So naturally she's curious, I says, I saw it at the side of the road, and I thought, yeah, I'll have a go on this. So, yeah. So anyway, I took it back, and Lynn and me talked about it the whole following week. And during that week, I remember ringing Keith up and saying, is it possible to have a test ride? I said, but with Lynn on, and can you put a top box on anyway? He couldn't do that. because Lynn likes a top box on her bikes for added security and comfort. So anyway, so the following Saturday, we took this black FJR out and went up to our photograph area of Abbey Village, just before Abbey Village, and took a picture of it. And well, I just said to Lynn, I says, "What do you think? You know, what's your opinion?" And she said, "Oh," she says, "you know, I like it. You know, I like it." And I could see that she meant it. You know, she really did mean it. And so the deal was done. So Gloria we let her go. This is 2013, so we'd had her 5 years nearly. We'd had lots and lots and lots of fun on her, and there we are on a I forget what they called it now. They didn't call it silver. I don't think it was called silver. In fact, in some lights it looked a different colour. I can't remember. In different sunlight, and it was funny how it used to react with the sun. But it was beautiful. And then we had obviously with panniers, and we had a top box put on an E55 Jivvy. We had it sprayed up with what's it called? It went to Australia in Darwin, and there we are on this brand new. But the difference, for the first time ever, I've never had a personal plate. It's not really interested me, and it still doesn't really, you know. It doesn't really bother me that people can see what age the bike is. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm gonna say, but anyway, what I didn't sort of want really was a 13 plate. A little bit superstitious, you know, and I didn't fancy a 13 plate, so I just said to Keith, I said, "Is there anything that you can do with a personal plate, you know, like a deal wise?" This was at the point of sale, so it was agreed that he'd supply a chosen plate that I had picked out from the DVLA's website, and I got K50, K for King, 50, because we were both 50 that year, 2013. FJR, so K50 FJR, perfect. And I can't remember the price of it. It wasn't that much really. So we got that plate. So perfect. So yeah, so now we're on an FJR. I did notice right away the first time we rode, when it was cool weather, that I think that my left arm especially was more exposed to cold and certainly wet. So the screen and fairing were a lot less than the pan, and that was a problem. You know, that was you know, sort of you know, a little bit of a disappointment. However, there were other things that made the bike a lot better, like, you know, a bit more power and just overall styling, and you know, it just looked great, you know. And in 2013 we were booked to go to Germany and tour the Moselle, the Harz region. We'd then move over to a place called Wissen, which is near Cologne, and then we'd the last hotel was in Utrecht in Holland, and then we would go back to the Europort at Rotterdam, and then the ferry back to Hull. And what an absolute fantastic holiday that was. It's on YouTube. I didn't really do it justice, really. Again, you know, I didn't have the camera that I ended up with, the GoPro eventually, but the contour was good, but you know, limited. But what we have got on DVD and certainly on YouTube, some of it's on YouTube, is brilliant. It's a record of it, and but there's a funny story attached to that. We had a sat nav, a Garmin Zumo 550, and a friend of ours, Graham, he put all our routes in to the hotels. The first bit was, you know, after Rotterdam was the first break was in Monschau, which is just inside Germany on the Belgian border, and we were going to have lunch there, and then by the time we'd arrive in Kloten on the Moselle, it would be time for evening meal, and Klaus, our host, was going to have, you know, an evening meal ready for us, and all that. So we did all the routes, and because Graham's an absolute whiz with doing that on I can't remember what it was called now, the software that he used to use with the Garmin. It'll come to me. And we arrived in Holland that morning after an overnight sailing, and I parked up once we'd gone through passport control to put the route in, you know, to kick the sat nav into action, and I put Monschau, and it come up on screen, search all cities at the top. That's odd. So I kept trying, but it wouldn't find it. I tried Eupen, E-U-P-E-N, that's in Belgium, to no avail. Search all cities, and that's the only option we had. So you tap that and it comes up with all the cities beginning with E, but Eupen wasn't there. I thought, well, maybe it's because we're near the building, you know, we need a ferry port, let's set off and pull into a lay-by somewhere and more open. And so I did that and tried again, and still search all cities. By this time I'm panicking a bit. I really am panicking a bit. Well, we both are. What the heck's happening? So we set off, and on this motorway system coming out of Europort, and I can't remember how many tunnels we went through. You know, fantastic, impressive tunnels and tunnel systems, and they've all got names, you know, and everything's done right. And I had no idea where we were heading. For some, you know, for this, how naive we were, really. Never been, apart from that weekend in France the year before, we'd never been abroad. And I was expecting a sign above the motorway saying Germany this way, but of course, you know, never saw that, and everything's in Dutch. So So we rode up and down this motorway, and it just seemed like we were doing this all day, but it just, I must have put, I don't know, 150 miles on the bike up and down these motorways. I mean, when I came home and I looked on because the Contour helmet cam, it has a GPS function, so you can actually, with software on your computer, you can actually see where you went, and well, it was like a squiggly line all over the place, we just up and down, up and down, up and down. So we were heading for Brussels at one point. I saw the signpost for Brussels. I thought, oh my God, where the hell are we going? We really were quite desperate at this stage. So I hit on an idea. I thought, right, it's going to cost me, but so be it. I got mobile. I think we were on the Samsung S3 at that time, I think. Yeah. So I said to Lynn, I said, I put the the address in, and see if we could follow it on using the app, and it worked. So Lynn had hold of my phone, and she's telling me the directions over the intercom, and we got to I can never remember the name of the place. Oh dear. Koblenz. We got to Koblenz, that's right, where the Moselle and the Rhine meet. They merge there. So I remember ringing a friend in England who knew Germany. He was half German, and I thought, well, if anyone knows, it's him. So at least we're in a big place now. We can't be that far off Clotten, and we weren't. And we needed to pick up, I think it was the A49. I'm not sure, the B49. B49 rings a bell, and it basically follows the Moselle. Sometimes you cross over, it's on your left, but most of the time it was on your right. And we eventually came to Clotten, and it was quite late in the evening, probably after 7 or coming up for 8, maybe even later, I can't remember. Beautiful sunny day, sunny evening, and Klaus had been good enough to save some food for us. Absolute genial host, fantastic chef. He led us down years later, but that's another matter. But we couldn't have been in a nicer hotel, biker hotel. The only thing that might put some people off, it didn't certainly put us off, was the fact that it was, yards from a really, really busy railway line. I loved it because I like trains, but I can imagine some people who don't like trains, but you didn't hear it inside your room, unless you had your window wide open, but you had air conditioning, so you wouldn't do that anyway. You didn't hear it, so it wasn't a problem. So anyway, we arrived in Clotten, and the reason, as I found out, was the fact that I had the wrong maps on. I had United Kingdom, Ireland and Western Europe. So it worked alright in France. That's what confused me, because I thought, well, it worked last year, but that's Western Europe. It didn't work further east. So that's what the problem was. So I remember on the Tuesday we met up with Kevin and Leslie, couple that were on their FJR. It was an 06 FJR, I think it was. They got a brand new one some years later, 2016, like ours, like Phoenix, but silver. Anyway, they got a route planned for this for the Tuesday, because Monday, day after we arrived on the Sunday, we chilled out. We just looked around Clotton, not much there. Had a few beers, looked at the Moselle, the river, all the barges, absolutely awesome. And we just chilled out. But on the Tuesday we were ready for exploring, so Kevin and Leslie were good enough to ask us along, and we jumped at it. They were going to a place called Trier and other places en route, and it was great. So now we're officially on holiday, you know. We thought, right, this is great, but I need, you know, I was thinking about buying a new sat nav, you know, like a car one, temporary, you know. Obviously couldn't use it in wet weather, but at least it will be a sat nav, and I'd have to do something. Anyway, Tuesday night we were sat on this sort of veranda, you know, in the hotel with Kevin and Leslie, with I think Walter and this other Dutch guy, and I think Klaus was there, and we were all, and of course Lynn and me, were all sort of, you know, having a good natter and a few drinks, and it was just, and it was so warm, you know, it was just brilliant. So I said to Lynn privately, I said, I wonder if Klaus would allow me to download maps onto me sat nav, you know, with his internet. And so I asked him, and he said yes. So I set it downloading using the I can't remember we had a what do you call it, netbook with us. We've took the netbook for transferring video files from the micro SD card to the hard drive that I've taken along with us. So we had this netbook, Windows 7. So I used the program, now they call it apps, for downloading updates and maps and things to a Garmin device. I can't remember the name of it. And I'm not joking, it took around about 7 hours to download the maps. Klaus's internet was so slow. It's a big file anyway, but it took 7 hours. So it took the whole evening chatting on this veranda, and I kept nipping back to Klaus's office just to check on it. It hadn't dropped out. It hadn't, so it kept going. And when it finished, everybody had gone to bed, and so I nipped down into Klaus's office. We were all in darkness, and God, that felt weird, you know, being in somebody else's, you know, a stranger really. We didn't really know him. In his office, sat there while these maps are installing on our Garmin device. So it installs successfully, so we were fine. So from that moment on, we were sorted. We were happily able to travel and not get lost, and that was a massive boost. You know, it really did. You know, because it would have really spoilt the holiday. You know, not being able to, because, you know, we don't know Germany. I mean, it's a big country, massive country. Anyway, so we did some touring round for that next day or so, a couple of days. Went to Koblenz, went to Bern Castle, you know, and places in between. And then we, I think it was the Friday, of that week, we transferred from Moselle to Harz, the mountain region, Harz Mountain, Harz, and that used to be in the old East Germany, when it was separated by the wall, Berlin Wall. And we'd been told by our friends in England, who is half German, how beautiful the area was, and what we should do and where we should go, and with so much to see. And it was. I mean, we stayed in a place called Bad Grund. That's BADGRUND. So 2 words, Bad Grund. And wow, what a place! What an absolute place that was. Perfect to for touring on motorcycles. Lots of twisty roads and beautiful scenery. So yeah, and the place itself where we were staying, I can't remember what it was called now. And Peter and his wife, what was his wife called? Peter and our horse, they'd just literally taken over this place. There was an English guy that owned it before. We met him once. He came to meet us, just briefly. And yeah, they were good horse, and we felt friendly there. We felt like we were at home. And he gave us some advice as to where to go and places to see and what have you. But one thing I will say is that on the journey going to Hearts from Moselle, the traffic was absolutely horrendous. Apparently it was the end of the school holidays in Germany, and so the levels of traffic, you can imagine, was even in a massive country like that, it was just unbelievable. But not only that, there was a lot of roadworks going on the motorways, the autobahns, and I mean a lot of roadworks. And at one point it's like 42 degrees. Yes, 42 degrees Celsius. So very, very hot. And at one point we were, you're not allowed to filter in Germany, incidentally. So when you're in traffic, you really have to sit there in traffic, otherwise you risk getting a ticket. And at one point we were sat next to this other biker. He was Australian, but he'd lived in Germany a long time, and he was on a Kawasaki motorcycle, air cooled, and he kept having to turn his engine off because it was basically overheating. And we sat in the shadow of this huge lorry, this heavy goods vehicle, and even though traffic in front of us in our lane was moving a little bit, not much, but you could see it weren't going to go far. Well, we just stayed where we were because we were in the shadow of this truck, because this truck weren't moving. So it was just so hot. So what I did, I took my gloves off, because we were basically just at walking pace when we were moving. It was safe enough to ride without gloves, because my hands were just. In fact, I wonder what the heck was happening. My left jacket sleeve was dripping of water, and it really was bizarre. Just my left one. So clearly, the sweat from me, the heat from the engine going up that sleeve, and the cooler air around it. Well, it was just unreal. I thought I was leaking. I really did. You can imagine, becoming very, very dehydrated and quite dangerous or so, so we needed to get somewhere quick for a nice refreshing drink, Anyway, so we were sat chatting to this biker for quite some time, and having a good laugh. He had a good sense of humour, as all Australians seem to have, including our friend Rod. Yeah, it was a very, very testing journey. Now we found a McDonald's, I think it was, and of course it's air conditioned in there. Oh, it was so good to get in there and get a drink, and but the journey, I think it took us. I think we were on the road probably about 11 hours from from Clotten to Baggrund. I'll have to look on maps to see how far it is. I mean, I could do it now. Let's have a look. Because it really was, a killer, absolute killer of a journey. It really was. So if I put Clotten, Germany, directions, and if I put background, do it the other way around, background, finding best routes. Right, so it's a journey of 378 kilometres. Okay. And fastest route, the usual traffic, is 4 hours and 3 minutes. Okay, so yeah. So on a normal day, that would take 4 hours and 3 minutes. Well, we were on the road, obviously with a few breaks and massive traffic problems. It must have been 10 or 11 hours. I can't remember exactly how such a long we were on the road, but it was unbelievable. Anyway, we when traffic suddenly started moving, and I'm there with my gloves just tucked in between the screen and the fairing. Wasn't moving fast, but one of the gloves blew straight away, and I saw it in the road behind in my mirror. Oh dear, I've lost a glove. So the whole journey from there to Baggrund was on without gloves. Now it just felt so strange. It didn't feel safe. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was nice, apart from getting hit with flying insects, but it's not really my thing. I'd rather be uncomfortable wearing gloves and but safe, Anyway, so when we settled in, and the following day we went to there's a place where they do everything from sat navs to motorcycle accessories and clothing and everything, and it's in Hanover, and so it's a nice little ride up to Hanover, quite fast roads, and we went into this place. Wow, what a huge building this was, and there was some bikes in there, not for sale I don't think. I think they were just display models, and bought a pair of cheap leather gloves, and I had them. I think I was probably wearing them on the day of the crash in 2017. So I had them 4 years, and they were good gloves, and they weren't expensive. So that's so nice. At least now I've got a pair of gloves, and so we we could again start thinking about touring the area, and we travelled all around the Heights region, found a biker meet where they meet, and you could get a meal in there. We got a lovely meal, and the whole holiday, the whole trip was an absolute amazing experience. We've never done that before. Never ever done that before, you know. And when we got home, you know, we a lot happened. A lot of good things happened in between where we are now at Baggrund and home. An awful lot. We met a lovely couple called Pete and Di, and their friend Bob, and yeah, so we're still friends. You know, they live down south, and you know, at one point when I was at my lowest, really, Pete came up once and he spent some time with me, some few days with me, which was fantastic, lovely company. And then Di came with him one time, and you know, stopped over and in our spare room. And again, lovely company. We were watching Benny Dorm on TV on Netflix and having a good laugh at that. So, you know, we met a lovely couple, and the day we met, I should say, that night we went for a few drinks, and there was a live band on, and I thought, this is living. This is how it's all about. This is the way it should be, you know. So the whole trip, you know, from start to finish, was an experience, and so grateful that I got to do it with my best friend Lynn. You know, no regrets at all. You know, life's for living, and we certainly lived it without a doubt. Yeah. So then I remember when we got home, a lovely surprise was waiting for us. And that was on the window of the house. Neil, our friend and neighbour, had put a notice on the outside of our lounge window. It was like saying welcome home, Lynn and Paul, from your friends, something to that. If I can find it, I'll put it up on screen. And it was in German, you know, and because he can speak some German. Very, very clever man is Neil. And I thought, wow, you know, what a lovely surprise, what a lovely welcome home. And you know, we looked at each other in the house when we put all the panniers, you know, in the living room and emptied them, and all the washing needed to go into the kitchen for washing, and we just looked at each other and we just hugged each other and thanked each other for a lovely holiday, and we were just amazed that we'd done all this under our own steam. We really felt like we'd achieved something really, really big. And we had, you know, I mean, a lot of people might poo-poo that and say, oh, it's alright, you know, it's only a bike ride to Germany, but no, it was more than that. You know, it was our first venture onto the continent, and we planned to do it, you know, many times after that. And we, as I say, in fact, in 2017, for our 30th winning anniversary, we were due to return to Germany, and we were going to initially go to Kloten and stay at Klaus's, but then we were going to go into the Black Forest area, you know, the what they call I think they call it the romantic route and the castle route, you know. And I even said that, you know, that we could either go on the bike or go by train to in Austria, where Mozart were born, Salzburg, because Lynn's always wanted to go to Salzburg, and I promised her that we would visit Salzburg for a day. Oh, she would have loved that. She would have absolutely. It would have been a dream come true for Lass. Yeah, life's cruel. Life is cruel, but you know, there we go. So we didn't get there. So where we're up to, 2013 Germany trip. This is where I'll leave it. As you can see now, we're just about to arrive at junction 31, the M6 motorway, Preston Junction. So thanks for listening to my ramblings again. I hope I haven't bored you. I hope you're not all asleep at this point. Well, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on part 12. Okay, bye for now.